I came home on Thanksgiving expecting my daughter at the window. Instead, I found her locked inside the garage with bruises around both arms. I still carried the apple pie Hazel had asked me to bring. My navy coat was damp from the rain, and a paper turkey bracelet she had made at school was tied around my wrist. The house was dark. No music played in the kitchen. No voices came from the dining room. Preston's car was gone, and so was Marjorie's. Hazel. I set the pie on the counter. Her bedroom was empty. Her shoes were missing from the entryway, but her red winter coat still hung beside the door. I called Preston. The call went directly to voicemail. Then I heard 3 weak knocks. They came from the garage. I crossed the kitchen and pulled the inside door open. Cold air entered first. Hazel sat behind a stack of Christmas boxes with her knees against her chest. She wore a thin sweater leggings and no shoes. Her lips looked pale. Dark finger-shaped bruises circled both upper arms. She held another paper turkey bracelet in one hand. "Mom." I moved toward her, then stopped before touching anything around her. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" She shook her head. "Can you stand?" "I think so." I removed my navy coat and wrapped it around her. She pressed her face into the collar. "Did you come back because they left me?" "I came back because this is my home and you are my daughter." Her body began shaking harder. I called emergency services before moving any boxes. I photographed the garage door, the outside lock, the scattered shoes, and the bruises exactly as I found them. My work in Navy contracting had taught me that facts became harder to erase when they were preserved before anyone could rearrange them. Hazel watched me. "Am I in trouble?" "No." Grandma said I ruined Thanksgiving. "You did not ruin anything." She said only family could go. I knelt beside her. "You are family." Hazel looked toward the kitchen. Preston said I was not. She had stopped calling him Dad months earlier. I thought it was because Marjorie constantly corrected her. "Preston is your mother's husband. Do not confuse titles." I did not understand that Preston had begun correcting her too. The paramedics arrived with police. They examined Hazel inside the house while an officer photographed the marks on her arms. Her temperature was low, but she did not require hospitalization. A detective named Amara Lewis arrived shortly afterward. She spoke to Hazel gently and never asked the same question in a different way. "Who put you in the garage?" Grandma locked the door. "Did anyone touch your arms?" Preston held me. "Why?" I tried to go with them. Where were they going? Grandma's big house. For Thanksgiving. Hazel nodded. She said I could not sit at the family table. I stood near the doorway with my hands folded. Every part of me wanted to interrupt comfort and explain. I did none of those things. Hazel's account had to remain hers. Amara asked, "Did Preston say anything before he left?" Hazel looked at me. "He said Mom would understand when she came home." On the kitchen table beneath a silver serving tray, I found a folded note. The handwriting belonged to Preston. "She was never family. Stop making us pretend." Amara placed it inside an evidence sleeve. My chest tightened, but I did not cry in front of Hazel. My younger sister Claire died after surgical complications when Hazel was 3. I became her legal guardian before I ever met Preston. He knew that when he proposed. He once told me blood did not decide who deserved a father. 2 years after our wedding, he formally adopted Hazel in a Chesapeake courtroom. Arthur Bell cried during the hearing. Preston's father had taken Hazel into his arms afterward and given her a small brass key on a blue ribbon. A locked door does not decide who belongs, he told her. The person holding the key does. Arthur treated Hazel as his granddaughter until the day he died. After his funeral, Preston changed slowly. He stopped introducing Hazel as his daughter during company events. When investors visited, he sent her upstairs. Marjorie removed Hazel's photograph from the Bell family wall and replaced it with an older picture of Preston alone. Whenever I objected, Preston told me I was creating conflict. "You cannot force closeness," he said. "I am asking you to protect your daughter. You always turn everything into a command." I believed his weakness came from grief and pressure inside Bell Maritime components. I did not know Hazel's legal place in the family threatened something much larger. While Amara spoke with the officers, Hazel pulled at the coat around her shoulders. "Mom, Grandma dropped this." From beneath the coat, she removed a thick cream envelope. One corner was bent. Arthur's handwriting covered the front. "For Hazel, if anyone ever tells her she does not belong." I stared at the words. "Where did you get this?" "Grandma had it in her bag." "What happened?" "She was carrying boxes to the car. It fell near me." "Did she see you take it?" Hazel shook her head. "I put it under my sweater." Amara heard the last sentence. "Do not open it yet," she said. We documented the envelope, photographed both sides, and sealed it temporarily while she contacted the on-call prosecutor. Before we left the house, Hazel asked for the brass key Arthur had given her. It was no longer hanging beside her bed. "Grandma took it," she whispered. "She said it never belonged to me." Amara added that detail to her notes. We spent the night in protected family housing connected to Naval Station Norfolk. Hazel slept beside me beneath 2 blankets. The turkey bracelet she made for me remained around my wrist. At 3 in the morning, she woke and asked one question. "Can someone stop being family because another person says so?" "No." "What if everybody at the table agrees? Then everybody at the table can be wrong." She closed her eyes again. The next morning, Eleanor Grant arrived. She had served as Arthur's estate attorney for more than 20 years. Her name appeared on the envelope as the independent trustee contact. When she saw Arthur's handwriting, she sat down slowly. "I have been looking for this." "For how long?" "Since 3 weeks after his death." Eleanor explained that Arthur had signed a final codicil to his will. She prepared 2 originals. One remained with her. The other went into Arthur's private home safe. After the funeral, Marjorie claimed Arthur destroyed both copies before his death. Eleanor's office was later burglarized. The estate files disappeared, including her original codicil. Without it, Preston began operating the company under an older version of the will. "Did you believe Marjorie?" I asked. "No, but belief is not evidence." Detective Lewis opened the envelope in front of us while a camera recorded the process. Inside was the original codicil, notarized and witnessed. There was also a private letter to Hazel, a trust certificate, adoption records, and a USB drive. Eleanor read the codicil twice. Then she looked at me. "Preston does not control Bell Maritime." "What does that mean?" "Arthur placed 52% of the voting shares into a protected trust for Hazel." I looked toward the bedroom where my daughter was drawing. "She is 9. You are the trust protector until she becomes an adult. I am the independent trustee." Why did nobody tell me? "The older will give Preston temporary operating authority. The The Codicil limited that authority. Eleanor turned to the next page. Preston could manage the company only if Hazel's legal status remained recognized, her residence remained protected, and I signed an annual governance acknowledgement. 3 months earlier, Preston asked me to sign something he called a routine family management form. The document described Hazel as a dependent beneficiary. It transferred all voting authority to Preston and blocked my access to trust records. I refused. "You bring Navy suspicion into every room," he said. "A signature is not trust," I answered. "It is permission. I do not give permission without reading." Now I understood why he had become desperate. The codicil contained a removal clause. Any temporary manager who denied Hazel's status, attempted to remove her from the family residence, or used her trust assets without proper approval lost voting authority immediately. Eleanor held up Preston's note. "She was never family." Those 5 words were not merely cruel. They were evidence that he had triggered the clause himself. The trust certificate showed something worse. Preston had used Hazel's voting shares as collateral for a corporate credit facility, $14,600,000. "He could not pledge those shares without your approval," Eleanor said. "I never approved anything." Then the bank relied on false governance certifications. Marjorie's signature appeared on several of them. The envelope also contained a letter proving Marjorie received a copy of the codicil before Arthur died. She knew exactly what Hazel owned. She did not exclude a child because she believed Hazel had no place in the family. She excluded her because Hazel's place had become financially inconvenient. Amara inserted the USB into an evidence computer. Arthur appeared on the screen inside his boat workshop. Hazel sat beside him, sanding a small wooden hull. Arthur looked directly into the camera. "Preston may inherit my name, but Hazel inherited my trust." He placed one hand over the brass key around her neck. "If they ever force her to prove she belongs, show the court who profited from pretending she did not." The video changed to a recording of Arthur explaining the credit facility, the trust restrictions, and the reason he created the removal clause. He had already discovered Preston trying to borrow against shares he did not own. Arthur's final words were calm. "A man who treats a child as family only when her name has value should never control what belongs to her." Eleanor closed the laptop. Within minutes, she began calling the bank, the corporate board, and the trust's outside auditor. I looked toward the room where Hazel slept beneath my navy coat. Preston had written that she was never family. But on 11 loan documents, 4 banking certifications, and every paper that helped him control $14,600,000, he had sworn she was his legal daughter. At his Thanksgiving table, Hazel was an outsider. On his balance sheet, she was the most important member of the family. Eleanor began making calls before the video finished uploading into evidence. The first went to Bell Maritime's outside counsel. The second went to the bank holding the $14,600,000 credit facility. The third went to the chair of the company's audit committee. She used the same sentence each time. "The controlling trust document has been recovered, and the acting executive may have triggered an automatic suspension clause." No one asked her to explain twice. Within an hour, the bank froze new draws on the credit line. Bell Maritime could continue paying ordinary wages, but Preston could not borrow transfer collateral or execute new contracts using Hazel's shares. The board scheduled an emergency meeting for the following afternoon. "Is Preston's temporary voting authority was suspended pending verification. All of that happened while Hazel slept in the next room. She had no idea that adults were counting millions around the same child they had locked beside boxes of Christmas decorations. The next morning, a pediatric physician examined her bruises. The marks matched the width and spacing of adult fingers. There were 5 darker impressions on one arm and 4 on the other. The doctor also documented mild cold exposure and small abrasions on Hazel's bare feet. She should recover physically, the doctor told me. Physically. That word left room for everything no scan could measure. Hazel later met with a child interview specialist named Rachel Monroe. I was not allowed inside the room. Detective Amara Lewis explained why. Hazel must speak without watching your reaction. Even a loving parent can unintentionally shape a child's answer. I understand. You may not like every question. I do not need to like the process. I needed to protect her. Hazel stood beside me wearing clean pajamas and holding the paper turkey bracelet. Are you leaving? No. Will I see you when I come out? I will be in this chair. She studied the chair as though memorizing its location. Then she went inside. The interview lasted nearly an hour. I sat beneath a wall clock that clicked too loudly. My navy coat rested across my knees. It still smelled faintly of cold concrete in the garage. When Hazel returned, she did not run. She walked directly to me, placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "You stayed." I told you I would. Rachel later gave Amara a preliminary summary. Hazel said Marjorie arrived before lunch and removed the brass key from her neck. That belongs to the Bell family, Marjorie told her. Hazel answered, "Grandpa gave it to me." Marjorie said Arthur had made mistakes near the end of his life. Preston then ordered Hazel to remain upstairs while everyone prepared to leave for Thanksgiving dinner. When she came down wearing her coat, Marjorie told her she was not invited. Hazel asked Preston whether he was going to leave her alone. He said, "Your mother will be home eventually." Hazel tried to reach the front door. Preston grabbed both arms. She kicked his leg and screamed. Marjorie opened the garage door. Preston carried Hazel through it and set her down beside the storage boxes. When she ran back toward the kitchen, Marjorie pulled the door shut and locked it from outside. Hazel heard their vehicles leave minutes later. She did not know how long she had been inside. She knocked until her hands hurt. Then she sat beneath my old navy coat box because it had my name written across the lid. I had preserved contracts involving damaged equipment, missing shipments, and fraudulent vendors. Nothing in my career had prepared me to hear that my child used my name on a cardboard box as proof that someone might return. We ate our Thanksgiving meal one day late. The protected residence provided sliced turkey, instant mashed potatoes, canned beans, and 2 pieces of pumpkin pie. Hazel arranged the food on paper plates. She placed the second turkey bracelet around my wrist beside the first. Are 2 people enough to be a family? I looked at her bruised arms. One safe person is more family than a room full of people who make you afraid. What about Grandpa Arthur? He was family too. Even though he died, love does not stop belonging when someone dies. Hazel ate 2 bites of pie before asking, "Is Preston still my dad on paper?" Yes. Why did he say I was not? I do not know everything he was thinking. Did I make him stop loving me? No. I answered before the question finished. Nothing you did caused this. She lowered her eyes. Grandma said I was expensive. What did she mean? She said The company could not keep paying for people who were not Bell blood. I wrote the exact sentence down after Hazel went to sleep. The company records answered part of it. Eleanor and the outside auditor reviewed 11 years of trust and loan documents. Preston had signed 11 governance certifications acknowledging Hazel as Arthur's granddaughter, his legally adopted daughter, and the controlling beneficiary of the Bell family trust. He had signed 4 bank declarations describing himself as the father responsible for protecting her interests. He had approved 3 credit applications that depended on the value of Hazel's voting shares. Each time the company needed money, Hazel became family. When she needed a seat at Thanksgiving, she became an outsider. The adoption decree was equally clear. Preston adopted Hazel voluntarily 2 years after our marriage. He accepted every legal responsibility of parenthood. There was no temporary status and no exception for family dinners. The recovered codicil was examined by 2 document specialists. Arthur's signature matched verified estate records. The witnesses were located and confirmed the signing. The notary journal contained the correct date identification information and seal impression. The video metadata showed Arthur recorded his explanation the same week. Marjorie's claim that he destroyed the codicil had no supporting document. More damaging was a certified letter inside the envelope. Arthur's estate office sent Marjorie a copy before his death. She signed the delivery receipt. Eleanor also recovered an email written by Marjorie several months later. We must keep Natalie from discovering how much control Arthur gave the girl. Preston replied, I only need the voting authority until the credit renewal closes. The email was 6 months old. They had not discovered Hazel's trust rights on Thanksgiving. They had spent months trying to hide them. The garage evidence was equally precise. A smart lock log recorded Marjorie's code locking the interior door at 2:19 in the afternoon. The door remained locked until I opened it at 6:43. A driveway camera showed Preston, Marjorie, and 3 relatives entering 2 vehicles and leaving at 2:27. No one returned. The video also captured Hazel's faint pounding from inside the garage after the cars disappeared. At 11 the next morning, exactly 24 hours after Eleanor notified the bank, Preston arrived at the protected residence. I heard him before I saw him. He struck the outer door with the side of his fist. Natalie opened this door. Hazel froze beside the small dining table. I moved her into the bedroom and called security. The hallway camera recorded everything. Bring her home before the board meets, Preston shouted. I did not answer. If Hazel is not in the house, they will say I violated the trust. He hit the door again. We lose the company if you do not come back. He never asked whether her arms hurt. He never asked whether she had slept. He never said her name with an apology attached. He only needed her body inside the house before the board saw the note he had written. Security officers arrived and ordered him away from the door. Preston lowered his voice immediately. I am trying to reunite my family. One officer asked, why did you say the company would be lost if they did not return? Preston claimed he was emotional. The camera had already preserved the unemotional reason. Through my attorney, I offered a limited private discussion. I said I would consider avoiding a public corporate dispute if Preston acknowledged Hazel's legal status, surrendered temporary voting authority, and produced every trust and loan record. He believed I wanted to protect Hazel from publicity. He sent a proposed statement that evening. It said Hazel entered the garage voluntarily after a childish outburst. It described the bruises as marks from Preston, preventing her from running into the street. It also said our family spent Thanksgiving together at home. His message read, "Sign tonight and we can stage breakfast before the board arrives." The word stage mattered. He did not ask us to return so he could repair what he had broken. He wanted us visible through the kitchen windows. Detective Lewis preserved the message. The board did not receive a staged breakfast. It received the note, the smart lock record, and notice that a child beneficiary had been removed from her own residence. Marjorie was interviewed the same afternoon. She denied locking Hazel in the garage. When shown the smart lock record, she said she entered the code accidentally. When shown the driveway video, she said she believed Preston would release Hazel before leaving. When reminded that Preston drove the second vehicle, she stopped answering. Police recovered Arthur's brass key from Marjorie's handbag. Eleanor brought it to the protected residence after investigators released it. Hazel held out both hands. "Does this mean I own their company?" Eleanor sat across from her. "It means adults cannot erase you because your existence became inconvenient. I do not want a company. You do not have to run one. Can Mom keep the key?" I looked at her. "You can decide." Hazel placed the ribbon around my wrist beside the paper turkeys. "Keep it until doors stop being scary." The emergency hearing began 4 days later. Preston wore a dark suit and spoke with the calm confidence he used in board meetings. He said the note was written during a marital argument. He said Hazel entered the garage after throwing a tantrum. He claimed he had never understood her to be the true controlling beneficiary because Arthur changed estate plans frequently near the end of his life. Then he said something even less careful. Hazel was never intended to have real authority over the Bell family company. Judge Lenora Whitfield opened the bank certifications. "Mr. Bell, did you sign these documents?" "Yes." "Did you review them before signing?" "Yes." The judge placed the first page beside the adoption decree. "If Hazel was never family, why did you certify under oath 11 times that she was your legal daughter and the controlling beneficiary of your family trust?" Preston looked toward Marjorie. This time his mother had no hidden envelope left to protect him. Preston kept his eyes on Marjorie. She lowered her face toward the table. Judge Whitfield waited. "You certified Hazel's legal status 11 times, she said. You used that status to secure corporate credit. Are you now telling this court those certifications were false?" Preston shifted in his chair. "I relied on documents prepared by counsel." "Did counsel force your signature onto them?" "No." "Did counsel instruct you to adopt Hazel?" "No." "Did counsel tell you to call her your daughter when the bank needed collateral?" His jaw tightened. "No." The judge opened the next folder. "Then explain the difference between the Hazel named in these loan documents and the Hazel locked inside your garage." Preston looked toward me. This was a family disagreement that became exaggerated. I felt the brass key beneath my sleeve. Hazel had asked me to keep it until doors stopped being frightening. I did not reach for it. My attorney asked whether I wished to speak. I stood. I do not want to control Bell Maritime. I do not want Hazel raised beneath the weight of a company she did not choose. I am willing to accept every conclusion reached through independently verified records. Preston leaned back slightly. He believed I was preparing to surrender the voting shares. I continued. but I will not sign away her rights to make cruelty look like a misunderstanding. Judge Whitfield turned to Marjorie. You testified that Arthur revoked the final codicil. Yes. Where is the revocation? He told me verbally. Was anyone else present? No. Did he sign anything? No. Did he instruct his attorney? I do not know. The judge placed the recovered codicil beside Eleanor's estate records. If Arthur revoked this instrument, why did you retain the original inside your private files? Marjorie's hands trembled. I intended to have it reviewed. For nearly 2 years, I was protecting his legacy. Eleanor Grant took the witness stand. She confirmed the codicil's execution, the witnesses, the notary entry, and Arthur's instructions. Did Arthur ever revoke it? The judge asked. No. Did Mrs. Bell know it existed? Yes. Eleanor produced the certified delivery receipt carrying Marjorie's signature. She received a copy before Arthur died. Marjorie closed her eyes. The judge continued. Did Preston know Hazel was the controlling beneficiary? Eleanor opened the trust correspondence. He acknowledged it repeatedly. One letter carried Preston's signature beneath a sentence confirming that he served only as temporary operating manager. Another warned him that Hazel's shares could not be pledged without approval from the trust protector and independent trustee. My signature appeared nowhere. Neither did Eleanor's. The bank officer testified next. Bell Maritime had received access to more than $14,600,000 by presenting those voting shares as authorized collateral. The bank relied on Preston's certifications that he was her legal father and acting fiduciary. Would the loan have been approved without Hazel's shares? Judge Whitfield asked. No. Would it have been approved if the bank knew the trust protector had not consented? No. The courtroom grew quiet. At the Thanksgiving table, Hazel had been declared an outsider. At the bank, her name had been valuable enough to support millions. Detective Amara Lewis placed the physical evidence on the front table. Preston's note came first. She was never family. Stop making us pretend. Then came photographs of Hazel's bruises, the medical report, the smart lock record, the driveway footage, Arthur's envelope, the adoption decree, and the brass key. The handwriting examiner confirmed Preston wrote the note. The smart lock specialist confirmed Marjorie's code secured the garage from outside. The driveway camera showed both vehicles leaving while Hazel remained inside. The audio caught her pounding after the house became empty. Preston's attorney argued that no one intended to leave her for long. Judge Whitfield asked, how long may a child safely be locked in an unheated garage without shoes? No one answered. Amara played the hallway recording from the protected residence. Preston's fist struck the outer door. Bring her home before the board meets. His voice continued. If Hazel is not in the house, they will say, I violated the trust. Then came the final sentence. We lose the company if you do not come back. The recording ended. Judge Whitfield looked at him. You had been separated from your daughter for 24 hours. Why did your first demand concern the board? I was trying to preserve the family business. Did you ask whether she needed medical care? I knew Natalie would handle that. Did you apologize? I planned to. Did you ask whether she was afraid? He said nothing. My attorney displayed his later message. Sign tonight and we can stage breakfast before the board arrives. The judge read the word stage twice. You did not ask them to return so you could repair the family, she said. You wanted them visible before the trustees arrived. Preston's confidence began to fracture. He pointed toward Marjorie. She hid the codicil. I did not know all the conditions. Marjorie turned toward him. You signed every credit document. You told me Arthur never meant the girl to control anything. You knew what the bank required. Their alliance collapsed the moment responsibility became more expensive than loyalty. Eleanor asked permission to play Arthur's recording. The screen showed him inside his boat workshop. Hazel sat beside him, sanding the edge of a small wooden hull. Arthur looked directly into the camera. Preston may inherit my name, but Hazel inherited my trust. He rested one hand near the brass key around her neck. If they ever force her to prove she belongs, show the court who profited from pretending she did not. The video continued. Arthur explained that Preston had already attempted to borrow against shares he did not control. He created the removal clause because he feared Hazel would be treated as family only while her inheritance remained useful. His final words entered the courtroom gently. A man who treats a child as family only when her name has value should never control what belongs to her. The screen went dark. Judge Whitfield looked at Preston. Which Hazel was real to you? He did not respond. The child who was not entitled to sit at your Thanksgiving table. The judge touched the loan file. Or the legal daughter entitled to secure your $14 million credit line. Preston lowered his eyes. I felt no victory. Hazel should never have needed a will, a trust, or a dead man's video to prove she deserved warmth, safety, and a place at a table. The codicil did not make her family. It exposed the people who profited from denying what they had already sworn was true. Judge Whitfield granted me primary custody and issued a protection order. Preston's contact with Hazel would remain professionally supervised. Any expansion required evidence of accountability, child-focused therapy, and court approval. Marjorie was prohibited from contacting Hazel during the investigation. The court referred the garage incident for review involving unlawful confinement and child endangerment. The concealed codicil, false governance certifications, and unauthorized collateral were referred for estate and financial fraud investigations. Preston was suspended from Bell Maritime. The board appointed an independent interim executive. The bank restructured the company's credit and removed Hazel's shares from the collateral package. Marjorie lost every role connected to the family trust. Eleanor became the primary trustee under independent audit. I accepted no salary, dividend, or personal benefit from Hazel's interest. Every dollar remained protected for her future. Preston wrote to me after the hearing. He said he wanted one normal Thanksgiving with his real family. I answered once. You cannot call a child family when her name secures your loan, then call her a stranger when she needs a chair at your table. I filed for divorce. I did not promise Hazel she would never see Preston again. I told her adults had to prove they could become safe, and courts helped decide when words matched actions. Marjorie later sent an apology. She wrote that she had only wanted to protect Arthur's legacy. I replied through counsel. A legacy does not need protection from a child. A child needs protection from adults who use legacy to excuse cruelty. 1 year passed before Hazel could walk near the garage without holding my hand. We removed the old door. The replacement was made of glass and could not be locked from outside. We painted the walls pale yellow and turned the space into an art studio. Hazel placed Arthur's brass key inside a shadow box beside a photograph of them building the wooden boat. The key no longer opened anything. It did not need to. Some symbols protect us best after they stop controlling a door. Eleanor and I later established a small support program called A Seat at the Table. It helped adoptive parents, step-parents, and military guardians protect children's legal identities, inheritance records, and safety plans. We taught families to preserve adoption decrees, trust documents, and emergency contacts before conflict made those papers difficult to find. Hazel never became the program's public face. She had already been made to carry enough proof. The following Thanksgiving, we invited several military families who had nowhere safe to go. There was no main table and no smaller table for children who did not match someone else's idea of blood. Every seat had a handwritten name card. Hazel added one empty chair near the window. "Who is that for?" I asked. "Anyone who comes late and thinks there is no place left." During dinner, she looked around the room. "Last year, they locked me away from the table." She touched the paper turkey bracelet still kept inside my memory box. "This year, we made the table bigger. Blood can explain a family tree. It cannot excuse who gets pushed out of its shade. A child should never need a will to prove she deserves a chair." Preston begged us to return only when our absence became expensive. The locked garage showed me more truth than their crowded Thanksgiving table ever had. We did not reclaim our place among people who rejected us. We built a place where belonging was never used as a reward. If a child is excluded, threatened, confined, or told their legal family status can be taken away, preserve the evidence and seek qualified help. No inheritance tradition or family name is more important than a child's safety. I would be honored if you shared this story with someone who needs that reminder and joined me again for another story about dignity protection and making the table large enough for every child.